One of the first things you will need to do as a teacher pay teacher author is to name your store. And while for some people this ends up not being a very big deal, for some people it can become very stressful and frustrating. So let's just take a look at naming your store today and see if we can take away some of that stress. Speaking of names, my name is Sherry from Rolling Acres Education. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if this is not your first time. And so remember again that saying that you don't need to stress over something is not the same thing as saying it's not important or not something you should be concerned with. It's just saying that you may need to take a step back and relax a little. And so let me give you 2 reasons why naming your store may not be as big a deal as you think. And the first one is you can change it. You can always change your name. It's not that big a deal. I did it. I hear people all the time doing it. I told you I'm on several Facebook groups. I hear people all the time. They're changing their name. They're changing their brands, their logos, their niches. It's okay. It is okay. Some people even open a second store. So it's not that big a deal. It'll all work out. Just pick a name, and we're going to talk a couple of things you do need to think about, but just go with something, okay? And get started, and maybe later, if you come up with something better, you can always change it. Number 2, buyers are not going to not buy your product because of your store name. When it comes to just teachers pay teachers, really your store name's not really as important as you may think. I was a buyer for many years before I was a seller, and I remember there was this one type of product I really liked from this one store. It was a color by number. It was, for older students. I was teaching 8th grade science, and it was a little more complicated than the color by numbers we used to. But what I loved about it is the key was a quiz. So the students took a quiz on some science concept, and like number 1 had 3 answers, and whatever answer you chose, you colored all the number 1s that color. And I really, really liked that, and I bought several of those. And you know what? I never knew the name of the store. Can't remember what the logo looks like. I actually, when thinking about making this video, I went back and checked, and I've already forgotten. I think it's Morphoscience or something like that. And right now, again, I've already forgotten. I have no idea what their logo looks like. So the only reason I know the name is because I went back to look just to share for this video, because I kind of got curious. But I never really paid attention to the names of the stores when deciding whether or not to buy a product. It's not that big a deal in the long run, and you can always change it. But here are some things to think about. Number 1 is when you come up with a name, and this is where the frustration comes, okay? This is where most of us get really frustrated. You need a unique name, and I don't mean changing just a little bit like a popular store was teaching with less or teaching on less, and you're not going to be like, oh, I wanted to use that name. I'm going to do teaching with less, okay? You want to be totally unique, all right? You don't want to just sound like you're trying to copy somebody by changing a word or 2. So you need to make sure that your name is unique. I would search it in not just Teachers Pay Teachers, but on Google. I would do YouTube. I would do Pinterest, all kinds of things. Just Instagram, all those things. Search for names to make sure that yours is available and someone else doesn't already have it, because no matter what you say now, you may eventually branch out and want to do more things other than just Teachers Pay Teachers. Now, what happened to me? I kept thinking all these. I thought of some names. I was like, oh, nobody will have this name. And I even have a very unusual spelling of my name, Sherry, S-H-A-R-I. And I would come up with things and think, nobody's going to have this. And sure enough, somebody would have it. And so what a lot of people do is they just use their name in the subject, like your name math, your name science, whatever. Kessler Science, okay? Very, very popular store. And I'm pretty sure it is just Kessler Science. His last name and the subject, okay? It's not that big a deal. Use your name and your subject. Mine, I was trying to think of something, and I didn't really want to use my name, and I thought, I live in Rolling Acres. I am creating things in Rolling Acres. So I started with Rolling Acres Creations, and then decided to just stick with education for several reasons. And so I did change it to education, change my logo a little, but I changed mine, no big deal, and people change all the time. It's not that big a deal. So here's the things you need to think about. Number one, you do need to think about using your name in the future. No matter what you think now, you may do what I did and say, I'm never going to do anything but Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm not going to get all that email and all that stuff, and here I am, getting into the middle of all that stuff. But it's worth it. It's great, and you should do it. Number two, you need to make sure no one else has taken it. You need to check over several different websites that you may ever possibly use. If you can't, if you keep hitting a dead end, everything is taken, just go ahead and use your name or where you live or something like that and go with it, and you can always come back later. And remember, people are not going to not buy your product because they don't like the name of your store, unless it's, unless it's offensive or something, which I don't think anybody's going to do that. So don't worry about it. Think of a name that fits your store, that may just be your name with the subject, maybe where you live, maybe something about the area you live in, whatever. Just don't, I think people want to make it fit their store. Like if, they wanted some alliteration and some rhyming and something goes with their store, and all that is great. I've seen some of the cutest names, wonderful, but you don't have to have a cutesy, trendy, unique name. It needs to be unique, but it doesn't have to be anything just, you know what I'm saying, okay? It can just be your name, where you live, something like that. If coming up with a name is stopping you from starting your store, and the logo, some people just take a picture of themselves and put their name and their subject across it and are doing beautifully, okay? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with the most unique, wonderful, beautiful logos and names and aren't selling anything, and people with just the most plain Jane names and logos who are killing it, okay? So don't focus so much on the name, just get started. Remember, you've got this, God's got you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.